So what is these whole verses about? You know, first thing I just want us to realize is that it talks about people who knew the truth, but completely ignoring it or suppressing it. You know, it said in verse 19, they know the truth about God because he has made it obvious to them. Do you know that God has made it obvious that there's a creator? That he is making it obvious by putting the need and the desire in each and every one of our hearts to know him. He has done his work to make it difficult for us to ignore him. Like, to ignore God, you really have to be really, really like obvious about it. You have to try really hard to ignore him. Do you know that ignoring and like not wanting to know is a dangerous thing? This is also a reminder to us. Don't ignore when the Holy Spirit is speaking to you. When, you know, the Holy Spirit speaks to you, he may speak on the inside, and sometimes he even involves other people. Like, sometimes it's the sound of the voice of your husband or your wife. It can be the voice of your pastor. Do you know when your pastor sits you down and says, I'm concerned about this bit of shady business deal, or I'm concerned about your relationships and where they're going, I'm concerned about your finances, things. Do you know that that can be the voice of the Holy Spirit? And telling you, stop ignoring these things, but let God deal with them. Because the more you ignore, turn away, the more you're going down a destructive path. And when people speak to you and they do it out of love, you will know and you will feel it. And there's so many verses and things that we could talk about today. So it goes on. Since they found it foolish to acknowledge God, he abandoned them to their foolish thinking and let them do things that should never be done. You know, you're like, God abandoned people? You know what it is saying here? It's saying that he let them go. He didn't stop them from doing things. Let me explain it like this. When God made mankind, he had two choices. Give them free will and let them choose. Let them choose to come to him. Let them choose to receive his love. Let them choose and live their lives as they want to live, or let them reject him. Or force them to do his will, basically like making robots that do whatever he asked them to do. And he chose, thankfully, free will. And you know, sometimes people who don't want to believe in God or who have issues with him, they say like, but he allows evil in the world. He lets people do evil things. Do you know, it's because God doesn't like evil. This whole verse is about how much it hurts him and it makes him angry when he sees people doing evil things. You know, it's like, I hope the way that you would feel that you have a child and you love them, but when you see them bullying someone else, you should get angry. You should not agree with what they're doing. And that's God's heart. He loves the people he's created. And he has given them free will to choose, but it doesn't mean he agrees with it. It doesn't mean that he encourages it. And as these verses go on, you know, I was thinking like, people, they don't want others to have free will, but those same very people want to have their free will. You can't have it both ways. Either God does not allow free will and he forces us all to obey him perfectly, or he gives us free will. And if you are enjoying your free will, it means that someone else, they also have free will. And this is what he has done. He has given us free will. He allows us to walk away from him. This is so hard. Maybe you're a parent and you've seen this happen where your child walked away from you, and the pain and the anguish in your heart, you can understand how God feels when he creates people and he shows them, I've made you, I love you, and they reject him and turn away. And they turn away from the truth and they ignore him and they walk away. But he loves you so much that he gave you free will. He didn't force you. He didn't force you to click on this link. He didn't force you to get up this morning and tune in. He doesn't force you to do something, but he's always calling you and beckoning you to come. So our decisions are on our own. And it goes on to say that we can even do things that he never planned for us to do. You turned away, you ignored him, you rejected him, you did everything you know you shouldn't do. Yes, actually you deserve to die, but it doesn't stop there. It says in chapter 5, when we were utterly helpless, when you turned away from him 1,000 times, when you watatao and you ignore it all and you keep turning and turning and turning and you're helpless and you can't get out, it is at that moment that Christ came at just the right time and died for us. Us sinners, all of us who were wrong. He died for you. He demands a death penalty because of his righteousness. But then he went and took that same penalty.